So I'm Claire and I'm a third year accounting student at Otago University.
And I'm Caitlin. I'm also a third year accounting student at Otago.
And to begin with,
Clicker's not working.
Yeah, double number.
as it's referred to in New Zealand, and income tax will be referred to as PAYE.
Is that not?
No.
Oh, sorry, his focus was taken away there.
Okay, so we're going over the types of groups that you can potentially be today.
So one of the first groups is a group with no legal status or set structure. So it's basically a group of people who come together to do something like doing a book club or doing knitting and weaving and that kind of stuff. So basically it's just people who are coming together to do one thing together, and you might not have a bank account or money or that kind of stuff. And then you also have an umbrellaed group. So an umbrellaed group is looked after by a larger group who umbrellas you. So you're under their umbrella and under their wing. Basically, they support you by handling your administration and the transfer of your money and that kind of stuff. For example, DCA, the company that we're at, is supported by Weave Together, which is a larger group above them. So they're umbrellaed by Weave Together. And then we also have a formal group, which we may also refer to as a registered organisation. And that's a group that does have a legal status and a set structure and basically can do most things like having a bank account and that kind of stuff. In New Zealand, the common types would be incorporated societies and charitable trusts. For example, you may know of the Cancer Society. They're one of the popular ones in New Zealand. So, yeah.
Oops.
Okay, so I'll be going over the pros and the cons of being an informal group. So one of the pros of being an informal group is that it has little admin requirements, so that you do not have, by law, you do not legally have to do any set meetings, any certain structure. There is nothing for you to adhere to. And this means that it's also very flexible. People can come and go as they please. You do not have to have a president or a vice president or any other roles within there. It's very flexible and can suit your needs. There are quite a few cons associated with being an informal group though. So one of them is that you've got no legal identity or a status. So this means that you are unable to enter into any contracts if you would like to borrow money or if you would like to own property. It also means that you cannot open a bank account. So if you're doing any kind of transactions that you would like to keep separate from your own, then you have to open a bank account, which you cannot do if you are an informal group. Members can also be liable for any of the debts of your informal group. So if your informal group goes into any monetary troubles or gets themselves caught in any kind of situation, you as a member would be liable for these debts. And then because there is no set structure for this organisation, settling any kind of disputes can be quite problematic or difficult, as there is no set way how to deal with them.
So with the umbrellaed group, like I talked about before, so this is when you're the smaller group helped out by the larger organisation. So it's really good because you can use the skills and the resources that are provided through the larger group, and they probably have a little bit more experience with stuff. So they can give you advice and guide you on what to do. They can also open you a bank account that you can use for your group stuff, so other than your private stuff. So this can get you funding from places like the Dunedin City Council, and will get you grants and that kind of stuff because they won't want to give it to you if you only have a private bank account. Also, being under the wing of a larger organisation can be faster than incorporating yourself. So it can make the process a lot easier for you because it just requires the written agreement between you and the larger group on how your relationship's going to work and operate. However, with it, obviously there comes some cons. So it can be a bit complicated when you want to employ someone because you have to go through the umbrella group and make sure you go through the formal routes of doing that. The umbrella group also requires a full disclosure of all your financial information so they know where the money's going and if it's going to be used for the right thing kind of idea. And the members can still be liable in some circumstances for some of the other people's debts. So it can be a bit risky.
Yeah, and so the last type of option that you have is to be a formal group or a registered organisation. So the pro of this is that you have your own independent legal status. So this means you can open your own bank account, you can enter into any contracts that you would like to enter into, and you are held separate from the liabilities or from any kind of problems that may arise from being within your group. They're kept separate from yourself. It also means that if members come and go, that so does the group. The group will keep going, so it has a perpetual existence. And so under the Constitution and when it's set up, you will be able to, members can leave as they want and they can come as they want and the organisation will continue to exist. It also means that you can employ people. And so if your organisation gets to a size where you need to start employing someone to either look after the books for you or to run different things, then this is completely possible. It also means that you have got access to a wider range of these grants and donations that are up for available because these grants are here and they are available to you. And it means that if you are a registered organisation, that these are a lot more accessible. There are a few cons though, and this is that for certain roles, you must have certain roles, and these are set out by law. So you must have a treasurer, you must have a president, you must have a vice president. And so there's a large variety of roles that you must have when you are a formal group. There's also a strict set of rules, and so there's a lot of things that you need to comply with in terms of disclosing financial information and whenabouts to do these kind of things. It will also take longer to set up than any other groups because there is a longer process when it comes to registering and becoming one of these groups. And there is a lot more compliance required with the law and with the charities register.
We're going to hand over to Vera, who's going to talk you through how to become a formal group.
I'm Vera. I'm also a third-year student at Otago University, and what I will be talking about will be important for those who are looking to become a formal group. So the Charities Act provides for the registration of a formal group. So if you want to become one, you'll need to apply online. We advise that if you think you are ready to register as a charity, to contact the Charity Commission for guidance throughout the process, but I will briefly talk through the process now. So there are 3 stages: the before you apply stage, the application itself, and the post-application stage. So before you apply, you'll want to consider several factors. First, we advise that you do some research, including searching the Charities Register. In doing this, you can search the Charities Register to find the activities, charitable purpose, and beneficiaries of registered charities. This will give you an idea of how similar organisations will look like. You might also like to think about the governance of your organisation. So this includes thinking about the formal structure and the roles and responsibilities of each member of your group, especially in terms of your strategy, oversight, monitoring, key decisions, resourcing, responsibility, compliance, and risk management, just to name a few. Also, it is really important to make sure that the purpose of your organisation is charitable. There are 4 categories of charitable purposes set out in the Charities Act, and this includes relieving poverty, advancing education, advancing religion, or other purposes beneficial to the community. We also recommend that you've read and understood the obligations associated with becoming a registered charity, such as annual reporting requirements as discussed before. Also make sure that your governing body has agreed to apply to become a charity, and this has been recorded in your meeting minutes if you have them. And now you're ready to apply. The application process is done online and asks you for a set of information. A couple of examples of the information required includes your organisational organisation's formal name, your IRD number if you have one, your NZBN number if you have one, the charitable purpose of your organisation as discussed before, and your latest financial statements if you have these. The process is step by step and will guide you through any document needed. So once you've submitted your application, you'll receive an email acknowledging receipt of the application, and Charity Services will contact you if you need any further details. You'll receive an email or letter informing you of the outcome of your application. And once you've submitted it, you might decide you want to make changes. Contact the Charity Services as shown in this slide.
Please, hello, my name is Thomas and I'm a fourth year accounting and economics student, and we have also Leslie with us.
Yeah, and I'm a fourth year finance and accounting student.
Yeah, so maybe to start with, we'll give you some good practices that you can do as a treasurer, but also want to mention that, in order to run a successful organization, we need to have a good system. So system is the key to for you to success the organization. To what you want to achieve. So, and then we'll give you some tips of these good practices. So me, myself, I'm involved with some of the university clubs and I do some treasuring for them. So these will just go through some of our good practices as a treasurer, whether you're a formal group or informal group. So to start with, the first is that we always have two people authorized transaction to maintain transparency. So let's say you have a event and then you have money, you have to pay someone or you have money coming in. The key is really about the transparency. You always want two people to together when you're making a payment. So if we have to pay someone back or you have money coming in, you make sure you always have two people, at least two people, to maintain the transparency. The second is that, so if you have any receipts, you just file in one safe place. So what we do usually is Google Drive. Google Drive, you can just store everything on there. So if you have invoices and everything, you can store one place. Or if you don't like to use the internet, you can maybe just have a file and then you can according to month by month, just so you record everything down and it's in one place. So every time you want to go back to something, there's easy access. And then the third one is that, in New Zealand, you're expected to comply to the law. So we're registered under the University's Student Association. So we're expected to know all the reporting standards, the compliance. So that is expected. So you really have to, for you guys, whether you're formal or informal, you have to know that what are your reporting standards, what are the key dates. So a really easy way is that you can use a electronic calendar, and then can set up like reminders of when you have to pay things and when they are due. So this just helps you manage the payments and to set up some reminders. And also, so the fourth one is to deposit any money in a timely manner. So we recommend as soon as possible. Usually, so if you hold an event, maybe you collected some money, we strongly recommend that you don't bring it overnight unless you have a witness with you. So let's say you have some money coming in, but then you bring it home the next day. It's really hard to hold the accountability of how much money you actually received. So we recommend that, maybe after the event, straight away with two people, you guys can go bank the money. So this just helps you, reiterate the transparency and your accountability. And then the last one is, just to maintain an open communication channel with the members of the organization. So we're in an age of the social media now, we have so many channels that we can talk to people. So let's say your group wants to buy some equipment, or you guys have to pay someone, or just anything. Don't just go buy it. Like if you want to buy equipment, don't tell anyone and do it. You can go through the members, you guys can have discussion, and then to maintain a good communication channel. And then I'll now hand it on to Leslie.
Awesome. To follow on with what Thomas has stated and support what he's been saying, we also recommend having a binder. So, you can buy that anywhere, the warehouse, Paper Plus, literally anywhere. And so what you do is you divide that into monthly sections. And so that, you file everything that's occurred in their respective months. So, this makes it so much easier for you to review what you need, when you need it, all in a timely manner. Other good practices is labeling your transactions with references, so that when you are required to report the movement of money, you know exactly what and where the money came from and where it was used. Another reason that referencing is so crucial to all your transactions is that you can cross-reference it with the binder that I stated before. And so that, you know, for instance, like your bank statement, that align with what you've filed in your binder so that it just matches and you don't get all confused with everything. Also, you should always write down everything you spend money on and everything you receive money from. So you could do this, you know, electronically with programs such as Xero or a spreadsheet or MYOB, etc. But if you really, you know, struggle with electronics or computer systems and whatnot, you know, just a simple hard copy ledger book will do. However, we do recommend that you go the electronic route. One reason being, you know, with the ledger book, if that gets lost, you know, it's all in there. However, electronically, even if you lose your computer or I don't know, it breaks down, you can log in on another one. But most important, you know, you're able to have that transparency that we've talked about. And so that means that anyone can access it. And it's not just one person who has the financial document, who's all the financials in one place. So if you do need hand in deciding what works best for your organization, you know, we're here to help. So just booking an appointment with us because that's what we're here for, and that's to help you guys. Also, it is very important for you to know your reporting requirements if you are a charity, and just so that you just make sure that you comply to those and you know your regulations and whatnot. Another important point is, you know, recording your minutes is also essential for good practice. So you should be writing down all that's discussed in key meetings. This is important because one, you know, it shows the trail of decision making. So you know the decision and conclusions you've made, but also how you got to that point and who made them, who was involved. So I guess overall, it doesn't have to be difficult to have good practices within your groups and organizations. It generally comes down to creating a system that kind of incorporates everything that we've discussed, but making sure you do stick to it.
Alrighty, so our next topic for tonight is who you need to have a relationship with as a charity. So I'm Emma, I'm a 4th year.
And I'm Holly, also 4th year accounting student.
So our first relationship we need to build is with IRD. The Inland Revenue Department, also known as IRD, is a public service department of New Zealand, and IRD's purpose is to improve the economic and social well-being of New Zealanders. And it is a compulsory requirement that you have an identification number, and this is also known as your IRD number. It's unique to your business, so it's only for you and it will only be traceable back to you. Your IRD number identifies your business for all its tax-related events, and as a charity, you may need to register for sales tax, which is also known as GST in New Zealand, and income tax, which is PAYE. This is also done through IRD. And so the next one is our charity service and incorporated societies. Charity service objectives are to promote trust and confidence in the charitable sector and to encourage and promote the effective use of charitable resources. Charity Services maintains the Charities Register, which contains the information all about the registered charities. The Incorporated Societies Register is run via New Zealand Companies Office, and they authorise all the businesses and enable them to form and operate. You are required to register with your charity with either Charity Services or Incorporated Societies. And once you become registered, it is your duty to comply with all the reporting requirements and file a report to them every year. Both Charity Services and IRD have helplines to call if you require any assistance. They're very helpful and willing to answer any of the questions that you may have.
Cool. So another very important relationship you should have is with banks. So obviously, banks issue bank accounts, and here in New Zealand, having a bank account is pretty much a norm. It's quite expected to have one. And so if you're receiving funding, it's important to have that account there. And some of the organizations in New Zealand, so the banks, actually offer some bank accounts as special to not-for-profits, and some of them even waive fees for not-for-profits. So it's pretty easy just to get in touch with your bank. I believe they take walk-ins, so you can go to your local bank or even search them up online and give them a call if you need any help. And then at some point, community organizations are going to need some funding. So a great way to raise money is through applying for funding. So we've got two three examples here. We've got the the Dunedin City Council, DCC, has great community grants that you can get your hands on. So so just getting in touch with them about that is pretty easy. And then we've also got the Office of Ethnic Communities, which is essentially the government's kind of advisor for ethnic groups. And so they've got great information, advice, and financial support out there. So yeah, and we've also got the Otago Community Trust, which also has great community grants. So I think the main idea from this is that really take advantage of all the help that's out there in the community. And yeah, thank you.
So depending on what type of status your charity holds determines the need for these different relationships. So taking the step to have a legal status means that you'll be able to form more positive relationships than under the other groups. So it's important to remember that if you ever need any help, just to reach out to these different people that you make relationships with, because they'll always be there to help you. Next, we are going to pass it over to Liv.
Hey guys, so I'm Liv and I'm a third year accounting student. So I just wanted to really reiterate where to get help. So we're going to send you a PDF and we'll give you a wee handout of just where to get help if you have any questions, because it's so important to ask the questions rather than assume them yourself and make the wrong one. There's so much support out in New Zealand and everyone's willing to listen to you. And obviously we're here to help you if you need anything. So as Rob said at the start, you can come multiple times. You can have a question one week and have it fixed, and then the next week be like, oh damn, I've got another one. Like, you can still come in. We're more than happy to see you. And just remember that it's okay to ask for help and that there are so many people here to help you. And so I'm also just going to give a wee overview of what we've talked about. So we go from a non-funded group, which is an informal group, which is more likely where you are right now. And then we move to a funded group, which is an umbrellaed group. So a bigger organisation is over top of you, handing all, like, in charge of all of the money and the structure and everything. So for that, you're going to need a really high trust situation. If they're handling your money, they're going to want to know that you're doing everything properly and you're going to want to trust them with your money. And then into a formal group that'll need legal status, that'll need a bank account and an IRD number. And so obviously with all of the steps, they get more complicated, but there's advantages and cons to all of them, regardless of where you want to go. In New Zealand, it's important to always remember that good bookkeeping is a must. It's really standard in New Zealand to put everything in a monthly journal, like they said, like just keep track of everything that you're doing. Know your role in the organisation. So even if you're an informal group, you're going to want to know what you're doing within the organisation. You want to know what they expect of you and stuff. And obviously it gets in the formal group, you need to know your role because it's legally binding. Good practice is always required in New Zealand. So it's expected of you to follow the law, to ask questions, not just assume, to keep track, do all of what they said, and then always ask for help when you're unsure. And there are so many places to come, especially us. I don't know what that one is.
So this is our next presentation. So it's around grant funding for application to accountability. So it's about moving your organisation into a place where you can be successful with funding. And that starts well before applying for the funding, because you need to have evidence that you can deliver. And so we'll talk you through what that looks like, what's involved in that, and then what funders expect from you when you apply, and then what they expect from you after you have applied and ideally received some money. So you need to look after that money. You've got responsibilities at that point, and so how do you go about proving that you've done what you expected? So we'll step you through that. So Monday 10th of May, 6 p.m, and you can come in person or by Zoom, again completely free. And if you've got questions in advance or questions after, of course, you can sign up for a session with Dunedin Community Accounting. So I'll just check, are there any questions in chat?
Sorry.
And are there any questions in the room? Oh, we've got a vigorous head shake. So, well, I'll end by saying thank you to the students for bringing this together. Even the process of bringing it together has been really interesting. Conversations we've had around this, because it's a very complex area. So how do you do an introduction when there's so many aspects to it? And just some of the acronyms we saw there, and the different terminology that we see around the world, and the different terminology used in New Zealand. That was something we discussed, as how do we discuss this without giving this huge list of alternative words for one concept. And so we attempted to focus on what needed to happen rather than all the terminology around it. So thank you all. That's been fantastic, and thanks to Max as well, who's a volunteer chartered accountant who came in, watched the presentation, and gave us feedback and checked out some of the stuff for us. So if there are no questions in chat, then I shall just once again thank everybody, and we'll close the session. Well done.